I woke with a start, sweat running down my body and soaking the cool silk sheets that adorned my bed. I had just woken up from a nightmare, but I couldn't remember what it was about. If only there wasn't a grey cloud of sleepiness fogging up the memory. Then I remembered something as I felt the heart of another human body next to me, and I realised I was stark nude. I pulled the sheet up to my chest and turned to look at my companion. A handsome man with the body of a god lay next to me, alive and breathing. I let out a sigh of relief and then rose from the bed to walk to the bedroom, not even caring to take the sheet with me. The cool marbled floor of the adjoining master bath sent a chill up my spine, coming from my toes and out the tips of my fingers. The bathroom was spacious, complete with his and her sinks, even though I only occupied the extravagant apartment. The him in the bed was merely a temporary means of distraction. The marble floors were black with grey silver veins running through that also stopped halfway up the hall. Baby blue paint garnishing the remaining portions of the walls that weren't covered in the slick stone. I liked the colour. I found it calming. I made it to the sink and gripped the glass bowl of it, turning on the water the coldest it could get. I let it run for a few seconds, moving my head from side to side to crack my neck. There was discomfort in it, making it uncomfortable, and I knew instantly what caused it. The man in my bed felt it necessary to cuddle, and well, my head ended up using his arm as a pillow for a little while. I absolutely dreaded the men who wanted to snuggle after sex, and I normally succeeded in pushing them away, but well, he insisted. Little did he know that as soon as he fell asleep, I unwrapped his arms from around me and rolled him over to face his respective side. I slid my index fingers under the stream of water as it ran from the faucet. Ice cold, just how I needed it to be right now. I pushed both hands into the water and shoveled it onto my face. My heart still pounded, and I shook slightly from the adrenaline. But I began to calm down. As long as he didn't wake up, everything would be just fine. Well, I hoped it would be. I turned the water off after doing this a few more times and looked at myself in the mirror. My makeup was an absolute mess. My mascara ran slightly and the eyeliner that had been brimming my deep chocolate brown eyes was smudged, and there was absolutely no hope for my hair. Dark auburn hair framed a beautiful face with pouty lips and almond-shaped eyes. My pale skin was flawless, except for the smudges of makeup smeared in odd places. No blemishes and no wrinkles, of course. I wasn't exactly old enough for wrinkles. At the young age of 27, I was physically flawless and statuesque, so I attracted men easily. But this was always as far as it went. No strings, no relationship, and that was truly for the best. I didn't have parents to care about the lifestyle I chose. They had died when I was just 17, leaving me to fend for myself, but I made do and even succeeded. I managed completely to bypass the foster care system because I was able to find a job and take care of myself. Also, my parents left me with a nicely sized trust fund. I sighed for the second time in 5 minutes and decided that I needed to shower to rid myself of sweat and cruddy makeup. The shower was roomy and lined with the same black marble on the floor with 2 sliding crystal clear glass doors. The shower head was extremely large and made of copper. I absolutely hated silver. This kind of luxury was the only one you could get in a penthouse suite in New York City. I demanded only the finest because I'd earned it. I worked my way from being an orphan teenager to a successful businesswoman. I became a high-end art dealer and just happened to be very good at my job, earning large commissions on pieces that most art friends would drool over. I slinked into the shower and plunged my entire body under the streaming spray. The water was hot, broiling even. But I preferred it. The hotter the shower, the better. And I dared anyone to disagree with me. Not only did the scalding water cleanse me, but it calmed me. And I desperately needed that at the moment. There was another part of me I tried to hold at bay, mostly because I wanted the man in the other room to make it home in the morning, if he was lucky enough. The darker half of me was something I had absolutely no control over, so I did what I could to choke it down. I made the shower as quick as possible. The sun wasn't up, so I could venture a guess that it was around 3 or 4 in the morning. Once I dried off, I made my way back to the sink. I was going to brush the alcohol stink from my breath, since we weren't exactly worried about brushing our teeth before falling asleep. I put a perfect pea-sized dollop of the paste on my toothbrush and made sure to brush for exactly 3 minutes, counting down the seconds meticulously in my head. This habit keeps my perfect pearly whites in pristine condition. I needed the smile to make those large sales that kept me in the amazing penthouse. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. I turned the water in the sink on and spit the foamy paste out, rinsing my mouth to make sure there wasn't any residual. I stood back up to find the man previously asleep in my bed, and whose name I didn't remember, standing behind me, just as nude as I was. As I watched his eyes roam over my body, I knew what was going to happen next, and felt the dark half of me make itself known. At first, it felt like warmth running my body through, followed by goosebumps, commonly mistaken as excitement by lovers, and then tingling vibrations that ended abruptly. This change would always end badly, but I could not stop it. He pushed me up against the edge of the counter, my hips being ground into the marble countertop painfully, making me gasp. He took that to mean something else, and reached up to cup one of my breasts in his large hand while grinding his considerable length against me. The warmth started in my gut and spread throughout my body. It moved through the natural progression with the time it took for the man to begin nibbling at my neck. I saw myself in the mirror, and my eyes had turned from the sultry brown to a bright and unnatural green, the largest outward signal of the change which no man had ever noticed before. They were too distracted by the beautiful woman in front of them to really notice my eye colour. A much darker and murderous feeling began to move through me, taking over and every part until there was no semblance of me left. Sometimes, and only sometimes, I wish there was only me in here. I turned around and gripped him in my hand, moving slowly. A groan escaped his throat. With that, he leaned down, placing his lips next to my ear, and whispered, "We should take this to the other room." His voice was low, and he growled with a need I wholly understood. I couldn't agree more with the statement. I felt sultry, and I felt dangerous, like a predator finally set free from its cage. Moving around him, I released him and let my hands glide over that perfect V shape his hips made, his head turning with me. I saw that look in his eyes. That let me know I had him. He watched me tiptoe away from him with hooded eyes and parted lips, his muscles sang with beautiful tension as he followed, moving slowly like he would scare me away if he moved too quickly. I wouldn't have been able to keep my eyes off him if it weren't for the fact that I had one singular objective in mind, and it wasn't going to end with a round two, like he was hoping. I moved to the dresser, opening the top drawer and pulling out a long silk scarf. His eyes moved to the scarf as I backed away from him, slinking along the marble floor and running the scarf through my fingers at the same time. His muscles rippled underneath perfectly tanned skin, and he made his way toward me, a sly smile playing across his lips. "Let's kink things up a little bit, shall we?" I said as I continued to back away. I felt the backs of my knees hit the mattress, the silk cool on my warmed skin. I hadn't realised just how close I was to the bed. This wasn't where I needed to be. I needed him where I was to make this work the way I planned. The sly grin grew even wider as he slithered over to me and stood in front of me within seconds. I placed my hands on his well-muscled stomach and walked around him, turning him so his back faced the bed instead. With a small shove, he fell onto the bed, ready to be taken. That was only if I wanted to. Straddling him, I took the scarf and put it over his eyes, tying it like a blindfold. He gave a little chuckle as he laid his head back down onto the bed. "Where was this earlier?" he asked, while still laughing, just a little bit, his Adam's apple moving with each vocalisation. I leaned down, kissing him passionately. The warmth spread through my belly once more, and the need began to grow inside me once again. "You have no idea," I whispered into his ear. He laughed again, and I knew this was my moment. I leaned toward the side of the bed, reaching to the underside of the solid wood frame. I kept a small case velcroed to the part of the bed containing a small kit of things I would need. This included a small syringe, a vial of ketamine, and alcohol swabs. I cleaned the top of the vial with an alcohol swab and inserted the needle, drawing out the correct dose to keep him quiet, just long enough for me to get things ready. I tossed the vial aside on the bed and slid him inside of me to distract him from what I was about to do, even making a small moan to let him think I was enjoying myself. The needle slid into his thigh muscle easily. He didn't even notice the small prick of it. That was until he began to fall asleep. It was out like a light within 60 seconds. One reason I loved this drug so much: it was fast acting and they weren't out for too long. So I had an entire hour. I felt him go soft and slid off him. Throwing on a robe from across the room, I took him by the wrists, not even bothering to take the blindfold off, and slid him across my shoulders in a fireman's carry. I was a lot stronger than I looked, especially when the change took place. I walked over to the bookshelf in my bedroom and pulled one of the books just slightly, the entire wall sliding open. No one had any idea how much it took for me to get this room built, and no one would. I carried him into the room with ease, the red walls matching my intentions perfectly, and threw him onto the table. The clasps were there for one purpose: to hold him to the slab so he couldn't get away, or at least try. They were the same straps that were used in hospitals and psych wards, so I knew they worked. Plus, I had used them many times before. Once he was strapped to the table, I moved to the armoire I had placed in the room. It contained every single tool I had ever used to exact my plans. Some of those tools included ice picks, hammers of every kind, a hacksaw, even a pair of needle-nosed pliers. And there were more where that came from. I got out a few choice tools and closed the doors. Then grabbed a silver tray on wheels and rolled it over to me so I could place them meticulously on the tray in order that I would be using them. I heard him groan. He was beginning to wake, and I was more than ready to do this. I removed the robe and put on a white coat and a black apron to make sure no blood made its way into the pristine white coat. So far, it had always worked, so I didn't see any reason to change my methodology. I pulled a pair of blue nitrile gloves from the box on the tray and snapped them into my hands while looking down at him. He stirred, and the presence inside me pushed my own awareness into the background. Hello. My name is Blythe McAllister, and I'm a killer with a secret. Remember the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Well, they only got the story half right.